For how long do black people keep blaming whites, apartheid, and the West and don't take accountability? And I'm going back to, I like the little, you like the big. Going back to small things like buying from a black owned business, working for a black owned business, making sure that you support the type of leaders who aren't just dancing and singing and saying the right things, but people that are actually doing work on the ground. For how long will black people keep saying it's them and not us versus it's us? So let us solve. It's what we were saying about men. Yeah, the women are doing. It's like, okay, let's get organized and let's resolve this thing.
It's going to be very difficult because what has happened is we live in a world of efficiency and cheapness. You got to be efficient as a business and you got to give me the best possible price for me to buy from you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I can't survive. And the black small businesses are not geared to ever be able to compete and be efficient because they don't have economies of scale. They don't have a market, and they're always going to be lagging behind because the owner can't get financing from the bank to compete with the white business. So the white business is always going to be more efficient. It's always going to be better unless we have restitution. Which is why the Jews knew that they were going to face the same situation in a world of Germans, in a world of Europeans who had benefited from the very same Holocaust that they suffered. They asked for reparations first.
Wasn't that what PEE was meant to be? An affirmative action?
No, it was never meant to be that. That's the unfortunate part.
But that's how it was sold, right?
It was sold as such.
We're going to protect black interests. We're going to allow black people into the mainstream economy.
I'll tell you why it's different from reparations. In Europe, they say that part of reparation law is reparations can't be money. Reparations has to be goods, services, machinery, technology. So you break up a factory of a person who took advantage of you and you transport that entire factory from Germany to England and let England manufacture what Germany was manufacturing, even take the employees and people and skills to England, let them manufacture, now we export the very same thing to Germany. Let Germany produce grain and give us that grain. And we say that you owe us, like for instance, Germany, I think, was owing close to $2.2 trillion today, which was 198 billion then. And they had to pay it off. They had to give over their companies. That's why right now a lot of German companies are controlled by Americans and the British. See, now, if you want to put black people in South Africa in the position they should have been given tangible things, tractors, training. They should have been given factories.
By who?
By the people who had robbed them and wronged them and perpetuated a crime against humanity.
Those people have never believed that they were wrong. That's why they'll never give you that.
We don't need to make them believe. They need to be forced
That's
into
what I'm saying
doing the
about
right
accountability.
thing.
Like, you can blame... You're trying to blame an employer for underpaying you and exploiting your labor. And he's never said sorry. He's never said he's wrong. And I'm saying, for how long are black people going to blame versus being like, actually, we're the ones that...
Yeah, and it shouldn't be a conversation. The black people should have simply read the Riot Act.
We're here now. For how long must Abolindi Zulu keep saying it was apartheid versus... And we support her. She's right. So
what you're asking me is, what should be done?
Correct.
Like we said to the issue about the men and the issue about Zimbabwean sanctions. The very first thing that needs to be done to end white arrogance is that black people must now start getting military training. Okay? Black people need to know how to use firearms. Black people need to know how to defend themselves against the armed militia, white militia that is roaming around in South Africa wild. You saw the EFF guy getting beaten up by a guy who had a gun, and he didn't have a gun. That has to end.
It's a snapshot of what happened with colonization. He
Right
has a
now,
gun. I don't know. He beat me because he has a gun. Baba. But this can't be the same excuse that your forefathers were using.
And the ANC has allowed, they've surrounded their black people with armed settlers. Exactly putting us to it. At least Boshaga had spears and their own weapons to fight.
We don't even have a Nopkiri.
We have nothing.
We don't even have Nopkiri.
Nothing.
Sakile.
So that is the very first step, that black people have to be empowered to defend themselves.
The hardcore, when we speak about violence, you're speaking, we don't even have the most raw form of violence.
No raw form of violence.
The guns and the what. Because I was going to add the other things, Wuti. People also need to learn the smarter forms of, which is economic.
Economic, yeah.
And I've said this before when I was pushing Buy Black. I'm like, when are we going to sanction ourselves and say, if this is not manufactured by my brother, sister, I will not buy it.
Yeah.
I would rather go hungry. And that person that's saying, look, you can have this, we'll give it to you for free. You're like, no, it's not halal.
But do you know?
Therefore, I won't have it.
But do you know where the scary part is? You guys are getting close to a position where next year you might have a DA government, and once a DA government comes in, they're going to fire. Yabona lama phoyisa we Limpopo bo Raselemane bo bani the guys who fill the SAPS from Limpopo. They're going to fire those guys. Because they're incompetent. Then they're going to put coloreds. They're going to put Zimbabweans. Laba Zimbabweans that you see in the security companies, the armed response. Bazofakwa lapayana into the police.
Are you saying private security has got foreigners?
Oh yes, lots of them. My Zimbabwean brothers. Bagcwele lapayana.
Which is like a private army, if you were to look at it from
And do you think it was a mistake? No, it's not a mistake. This Dudula, they said Dudula must rise and say, hey, asbafuna ama kwere, what. The kwerekweres are going to be your private security companies. And if you've looked, have you seen that the private security companies, now you get to a roadblock, you can actually find private security companies there. They are slowly becoming to police the people. They are being caught in action against criminals more than ever before. Those are the people that are going to be used now when Dudula is starting to try to undertake protests. It'll be the security companies that will be there to meet them on the way. Who are the security companies? There's Zimbabweans in there. If you look at the bouncers that they're putting in the clubs nowadays, it's Congolese, it's Nigerians. It's deliberate.
It's been Nigerians.
So Tina Manje, we are divided. We think there's a difference between us. Hey, laba makwere kwere. Bazo police la makwere kwere. And then what? They're going to be the riot police against you in a DA government. And the hatred that you've built over time about Dudula and so forth, they're going to be using the same people against you. And they're saying to Abantu Mnyama, wise up. Because let's say the DA takes over. Let's say the DA starts to reinstitute apartheid, changing the police, changing the military. Guess who's going to stand up against the DA and fight the DA? It's the other Africans, because you don't have the power to fight this DA system. We do. And we've been preparing for this moment all the way to today. Neighboring countries are not sleeping.